So I went to school, I learned about child psychology, and then most of our education system is career oriented. It is
Right.
not life ready. I feel, informed parenting is much more easier than just taking a chance without knowing what it is. It's important to train the children from a very young age on
Yeah.
these sensitive and sensible areas. So I said, okay, fine, who do you think all these natural resources like mountains, lakes, rivers belong to?
Good morning, Meghna ma'am. It's a pleasure to have you here. And uh, Pride of Telangana, sitting here right with me today. It's an honor to be a part of this and having this conversation with you because I also come from the state of Telangana. And to see all the things that she has done, I'm going to read it out. And top 50 finalists of global teachers. You were part of the UN Water Conference in 2023. Pride of Telangana, as I mentioned, and Sarvepalli Radhakrishna Teachers Excellence Award, then Karmabir Chakra Award, and the list goes on. So, how do you do this? All of these things.
Okay. Thanks for having me here on the show. Thank you so much. It's just that I think that was just part of the journey that I had, I call life. Plan for any of these things for sure. It was just that, I was a little passionate about what I do, and all these things came along to tell me that, I have to be more responsible now.
Mm, amazing. And it's also interesting to see that to be involved in all of these things, and then your trajectory, the career trajectory shows that you've now become an educator, right? You're founder of Fountainhead Global School in Hyderabad. So how did that happen? It's quite interesting to see a person do these many things and then become an educator.
Okay. That's a very interesting question, I should say, because after my, like everybody, how we go to college, like, I
Mm,
also finished my undergrad, and then immediately after that, I got married.
right,
So once I got married is when I realized building relationships is very difficult, or different, I should say. I don't say
right.
difficult, but different. I should thank my husband who
Mm,
actually invested more than 2 years of time to help me understand how important is it to build a relationship. And definitely for women is like, the first question asked after any marriage is like, when am I planning for babies?
right.
So I'm that person, I'm not very comfortable to walk into unknown zones, because
Mm,
for me, marriage itself was like, a very, I mean, because while I was growing up, nobody spoke to me
right.
and gave me insights about like, one day you will be married or one day you will have children. It
Right.
was always career oriented, and like, the education system also, focuses mostly on how do I build
Mm,
my career in that
yeah.
particular line. But the emotional quotient of it was missing, I should say. And I was like not very comfortable in getting into that zone without knowing it. So
Mm,
I went to school, I learned about child psychology, and then I wanted to understand the practicality of it. And then I
right.
went to I used to go and teach in the kindergarten schools
Wow.
in London, and we used to live in London then.
Right.
So then that made me more curious in trying to understand different learners, including special needs.
Mm,
And I think after 4 years of that quest is when I realized, like, I'm ready to have babies and like, bring them
yeah.
up. So this is how my journey into education started.
Wow.
And I wanted to, because I always felt like, more empowered with
Mm,
when I'm with children. And I feel like, this is something that I want to give back to the society. So we came back to India, and I started Fountainhead Global School, and I am enjoying the journey so
wow.
far.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
To be ready for your kids,
Yeah.
you went through all of that process and you became an educator in that process.
I feel it's important for this generation to be
Right.
able to do so, because most of our education system
Mm,
is career oriented. It is
right.
not life ready.
Mm,
So, unless we realize ourselves personally that this is somewhere that I need to have that kind of
mm,
expertise or information, I don't think, like, people would do, because previously it was like granted, it was taken for granted that a family will be around to help you with the babies and all of that. But parenting is a completely different vertical or tangent altogether, I should say, for this generation. I feel informed parenting is much more easier than just taking a chance without knowing what it is.
Wow, beautifully put. And now let's talk about the UN Water Conference.
Okay.
So education, yes, you've had that journey and now you've become an educator. But how do you go on to, restore a 16-acre lake in Hyderabad? And how did that happen?
That's quite an interesting journey. I would love to share that. So, I actually run this NGO called SWAN, Save Water and Nature.
Right.
So this is mostly involving children into areas where they can understand the importance of nature, natural things, water. So I would do a lot of sessions on this for children, because I feel it's important to train the children from a very young age on these sensitive and sensible areas, so that it becomes a choice for life. Right. So that's one of the reasons why I started Save Water and Nature. So one day while I was having a conversation with my students in school about child rights, is when I asked them, who do you think all these, because it's important for children to know what their rights are and how can they voice it out as well. So, but then I always had this question from the children saying that we are too young, we are just children, who would listen to us and all of that. So I wanted them to actually overcome that thought process. So I said, okay, fine, who do you think all these natural resources like mountains, lakes, rivers belong to?
Right.
So my younger student said that it belongs to God. And then my older kid said it belongs to government. I said, no, actually it belongs to you, the future generations.
Oh, wow.
And they were like so happy, and then the surprise in their eyes and those twinkling stars in their eyes, saying like, really? There's something which belongs to us too? We always thought everything belongs to the parents or everything belongs to the grown-ups. I said, yes, of course. And then they were like, in that mode, saying that let's go to the nearest forest or whatever. I said, that's not possible. Then we boiled down saying that, okay, we'll go to the nearest lake. That is when I went on and checked out the nearest lake, and it was super shabby. And I only clicked pictures and I said, I can't risk the child's health in going there. So I said, I'm so sorry, this is how the lake looks like. And the dengue is super high on the rise during that time. I said, this is something that I can't take you there. But then, they already owned it up, right? All those natural resources. They said, how can grown-ups do something so bad to our lake, to my lake, And then I said, okay, I took that as an opportunity that I wanted to teach them real-time problem solving, hands-on.
Right.
So this is where we came up with ideation, with trying to understand, what are the solutions? How do you go about? So I involve the students in every step, like right from taking permissions and all of that, to be able to give them that opportunity that they are enough.
Right.
To solve any problem around them. Because that's a confidence I think we should build amongst this generation. So to be able to tell them, all we have to do is come together and try. So this is how we revived an entire 16-acre dead lake into proper rainwater, clear lake, where we built an entire walking track around it and a bund, and diverted all the sewage, and then built all the rainwater inlets, and also cleaned the lake. So this is how I had this opportunity to take this project to UN Water Conference, where I was speaking on blue economy.
Okay.
And when I shared this, like everyone, they couldn't believe their ears. School students and teacher would go to that extent in reviving a lake. That is, that's a good pat on my back when I shared it.
Of course.
Then they actually sent a small team to check how authentic this is. And so in spite of us not being a coastal region, Hyderabad, we were still able to contribute to the blue economy, where fishermen thrive on that, where cattle raisers come there to feed their cattle and all of that. So they actually saw it firsthand,
Yeah.
and they were super impressed.
It's a ripple effect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm expecting it to be. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think more of such things should happen to create that better environment. When we say better world around us, better environment for the next generations, I think this is where we all have to start.
Beautiful, beautiful. I mean, it's incredible that you've taken that on yourself, and it's a huge task, and that you've done that. It's commendable, I would say. And this also brings the point that I wanted to talk to you about, was that you mentioned about transforming education human flourishing. So a small example that I've seen is the lake there, where a lot of dependent people are flourishing. So how do you bring that to education?
Thank you for asking me this question, because so far no one asked me this.
Oh,
Even
wow.
it's like a tagline for my name on
Right.
my LinkedIn portfolio, or like any of these areas. That's a beautiful question. It's very close to my heart. I think that's my purpose, is where I felt, because we need to build those strengths, those attributes, and that confidence, and it's an ongoing process, right? So it has to, education shouldn't, or for me, education is all about how do you improve yourself.
Yeah.
It's not just only to get a job. It's not just only to call yourself, you're so and so qualified and all of
Right.
that. It has to give you a purpose in life. It has to help you understand, like, oh, this is how I need to go about, or this is what I can choose from. So it is not about, like, confining your choices as such, but how do we flourish? How can human beings flourish with this kind of inputs and with this kind of education that I wanted?
Right.
So that is something where I felt in everything that we do, there should be this question, like, how is it going to help me? It should come from within, right?
Yeah.
How and my immediate surroundings and my neighborhood, and then the ripple effect should go on my state, my country, my world.
Yeah.
So when we can solve issues locally is when we can see the result globally. Because otherwise we just sit there and talk and talk and talk about all these issues, but who is there to work on these issues? So someone has to get down there, hands on, to be able to solve these things. And trust me, the amount of dopamine or the happy hormones released in our brain when we accomplish solving these problems is something that one has to experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
The high is at a different level.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it makes it more purposeful, like,
Right.
why when we solve certain things. So I think that is how every human being has to take up that responsibility, that what can I do? How am I, contributing towards this? So that's the mindset that I wanted to inculcate. And it has to start from very young age, and also from the school. It is not always the parents. It is not always the school. It has to be in combination of parents, school, and also the society around them should
Right.
actually come together to build this kind of thought process.
Wow. That's insane. That level of thought going into what you're doing,
Right.
and how you're doing it. It's incredible.
Thank you.
Before I let you go today, I have one last question for you.
Okay.
On the practical side of it.
Yeah.
So you do all of these things.
Okay.
How do you balance life and work?
Oh, wow. This is one question that I think pretty much everyone gets asked, right? Yeah. But then my take on this is, like, for me, work is life and
Okay.
life is work.
Wow.
So I do not consider them as two parallel lines. Rather, I say it's intertwined. Right. So when you really love what you're doing, and then and you call it life, and definitely we don't have to, like, balance anything. So when the balancing only comes when we separate it, and, like, trying to
Right.
say that, okay, I have to do this and that as well.
Right.
But when it is intertwined, right? Like, at least for me, I have certain times where my family needs me the most, right? But then, because I created that kind of a team, my team supports me very well. So I can actually have the luxury of going and attending the family
Right.
for some time. But sometime my work takes that pedestal and says that, I want you to be around
Right.
me. So then I prepared my family in a certain way that, they understand what is my purpose, that why should I be there. Sometimes, like, I end up working for like an entire week and not see my family at all.
Right.
So they understand that. So you try, I feel, rather than balancing it out, you try and create your own support systems back home and back at work,
Yeah.
so that, it gets intertwined, and then
Right.
it's smooth. that way, and
Makes
it's wrong.
sense. Makes sense. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you so much for sharing your views, and
appreciate that.
thank you for being a part of this podcast actually, because I think a lot of things here can be learned, and the effort that you've put in, the passion that which with which you're doing things, it's tangible. It's amazing.
Thank you so much for having me here, and it's an opportunity for me to also share what we do. And I hope, like, I really appreciate all that time that you take out to take this to a larger audience. And I feel like really empowered whenever I see people, the younger generation, who's doing that. And I feel like future is in safer hands.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
because I'm happy that to be part of this, and thanks for taking out time and learning about
It's
me.
a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
We have a larger responsibility towards the society. That means that we have to develop the child as a whole. You have to grab the opportunity that comes to you. Community service should be made compulsory in all the schools. Some of the students have never sat in a train of helping others and uplifting others, who you are, being who you are, and your parents have given you the best. And there are other important things in life that you should concentrate on. So I feel that we have to embrace it. Doesn't matter where we are in the future, because AI is going to keep getting better, because already learning.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Newton Classroom Podcast. Stay tuned.